And we're live, brother. How you doing, man?
Hey, pretty good. I don't believe in moral losses, but what I do believe in is that you gave the number one team all they wanted for 4 quarters today. To see what the defense came out and did, man, it is absolutely a 180 from what they did last year. And I think that's twofold, man. What they did on the field today, and plus when they got down, they weren't out. And they put themselves in a situation to go back and get another stop and to get another stop. You were one blitz package, which was the right call, from sacking him, putting him back a little bit further to make him have to kick a longer field goal. Again, you're going against the Heisman Trophy winner. Had a minute 29 seconds on the clock. But hell of a game, man. Longhorn fans can keep their heads up because this is exactly what you wanted to see from this young football team against the number one team in the country.
100%, Clint. Like you said, moral victories don't exist, right? You go into the football game to want to win it, but this future couldn't look any brighter. You lost your starting quarterback who looked really, really good in the first quarter of the football game to some kind of shoulder injury. Your second quarterback comes in, has an ankle injury, but yet you were in the football game. And resiliency was one thing we talked about, right? And Jaylan Ford and his gap fit on the 81-yard run. Again, they only had 161 yards total rushing yards. And a lot of them were broken plays towards the end of the game by Bryce Young. But then that 81-yarder by Jason McClellan was most of their rushing offense. It was half the rushing offense. And Jaylan Ford missed that play. But he was resilient. He came back and made play after play after play. Again, like you said, Texas has to walk away from this football game when everybody said it was a 20-point gap by the bookmakers. Every preseason or pregame show had Alabama. I think Fox had 40-20, 40-20, 40-20. Nobody had it close. Texas had an opportunity to win this football game. Again, resiliency. They drove down there and kicked the field goal. Like you said, they had the right scheme called when Ryan Watts got back there on Bryce Young, but that's the reason why he was the Heisman Trophy winner. He busted the tackle. He got outside and made the play, and then they hit the field goal at the end. They're the number one team in the country for a reason, but Texas played a very good football game, especially on the defensive side, and that's why 𝗟𝗞𝗘 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗏 and Jaylan Ford are on the thumbnail.
We're going to go back and say this. What did Josh Pate say about the defensive? What did he say about your first game versus your second game, Jeremy?
Observation versus assumptions.
Tell me what your observation versus your assumption on this defensive line is as of right now as it moves forward.
Yeah, on Thursday I said, hey, don't take their performance against ULM as being what you're going to see the rest of the year. I think it's somewhere between where they played last year and somewhere where they played against ULM, which was this team was exactly where they needed to be on the defensive line, and the offensive line held out Anderson. Anderson had more penalties than he had, tackles for loss or sacks. He had no effect on the game. Him and Dallas Turner, other than Dallas Turner taking a cheap shot at Quinn Ewers and busting his shoulder up. But Kelvin Banks, Christian Jones, Cole Hudson, Jake Majors, and Hayden Connor played one hell of a football game against what's supposed to be the number one defensive line in the country, and I don't doubt they are. Our guys just came to play and did a hell of a job. And on the defensive line, Coburn showed up, Ajomo showed up, Devondre Sweat made plays, Byron Murphy made plays, Ovia Gofu made play. He was that close from picking off that or putting a hand on that fourth down conversion that Alabama had going to eventually win the football game. But this defense played lights out. So, yeah, my observation is going into playing this last non-conference game against UTSA and going into conference season, that you're probably going to hang now with questions at the quarterback position. I think you're going to hang your hat on this defense and Bijan Robinson. Again, we got to get better in the run game. Bijan didn't have a lot of holes to run through, but him and Rojan ran hard. They leaned forward with every carry they had, but you're going to be leaning on this defense, that front four, and that secondary's ability to cover.
Yeah, Alabama's shooting themselves in the foot all game, man. And I think it's because you had them out of sync. You got fans, 105,000 fans that are sitting in there. The scheme was causing Alabama to create their own penalties. You're behind the guy. You're behind the guy, so I got a face mask. I got to make a tackle because I'm out of place, face mask. all those penalties versus Alabama, because people are going to come back and say, well, they shot themselves they put themselves in that place so that Texas had an opportunity to win. Absolutely not. The scheme caused them to create those penalties.
You're absolutely right. The 103,000 did their part. They were in the game the whole game, and Texas allowed them to be because of their play. And then, like you said, they jumped off sides because they were getting impatient. They committed face mask penalties because they were pissed off. They hadn't been in a position like that in a long, long time, non-conference, against a Power 5 school. I think they said it was 24-1 going in the game. But Alabama's not used to playing close games unless it's games against Georgia. Or they've been beat. They got beat last year a couple of times, but they were on the ropes and they knew it, and their indiscipline showed it. Again, you're going to make your biggest jump from game 1 to game 2. My observation is this defense is clutch, and this was without any turnovers. This game was really, really clean. You had the time of possession 30 to 29, so possession was equal. We ran 67 plays to their 63. We only committed 5 penalties for 30 yards. And even with the quarterback shuffle, still didn't turn the football over and stopped them on 4th down. This team came to play. Unfortunately, like I said, Alabama is Alabama. Bryce Young is Bryce Young, and he showed why he's the Heisman Trophy winner because he marched them down the football field when Texas was in the right position. Just needed to execute in a couple of areas, and we win this football game.
Again, this is a defensive game. This was a defensive game, not really an offensive game, but it was a defensive game. And how often do you see that in college football these days, right? Like it's like going back to like the early 2000s to watch a football game, right? Or watching one of those Big Ten matchups where you're just literally it's all about the physicality of the game. Because if you look at it, neither team got over 400 yards on offense. Bryce Young threw for a 5.5 yard average per catch. 5.5. He threw 39 times for 5.5, 27. He connected on 27 of those. And then outside, let's talk about this rush defense, right? Outside of that long play that went for 73 yards? 73 yards? Alabama had rushed for 24 yards, and I'm not going to do math here, but 24 yards. Outside of that 70-yard run, you're looking at, out of those 24 carries, they gave up 90 yards.
No, it was split. It was split. The carry was for 81. They gave up 161. 80 yards on 23 carries, minus the one bad run fit that we had that allowed them to bust that play for 80 yards. Like I said, your defense played a hell of a game. They got beat for an 80-yard run. Other than that, it was 13 points. And like I said, Alabama had to pull every trick of the book. They had to go for it on 4th down. This defense, whether it's Pete Kwiatkowski, Gary Patterson, the players, whoever allowed them to have this kind of performance, and I'm going to put it on the players. Like I said, you could scheme one thing, but you still got to be able to make plays, and this team made plays. Like I said, outside of one bad run fit, they played a hell of a game. If you tell me Texas give up 20 points to Alabama on Thursday, I give Texas the win. Unfortunately, like the 2010 national championship game, you weren't playing with a full deck because your quarterback looked sharp. He looked like he knew exactly what the game plan was and executed it. And I got a feeling if Quinn's able to hit one of those deep shots, again, it's going to open up the run lanes for Roschon and Bijan. Should have said Bijan first, but Bijan and Roschon. And I think we're rolling. But again, the state of the program, we were 5-7 last year. Had a great game against ULM. Did what we're supposed to do, and then number one walks in here, and you're projected to lose by anywhere from 20 to 30 points by most prognosticators, and you have an opportunity to win the football game. Again, that's what we asked for on Thursday. Give us a chance to win the football game in the 4th quarter. Those guys who were on the in-game chat with us know that me and Clint there was a little shaky in our voice, and I don't know if it was the caffeine that I had because I had quite a few cups of coffee because I didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night. But we were nervous. We were excited. And this football team, like I said, going forward, recruiting angle, you had a lot of visitors there. And those guys who came there to see Texas versus Alabama thought they might see one thing, had to walk away saying, hey, I got to give this program a shot. Deuce Robinson, the number one tight end in the country, has to like what he's seen. Malik Muhammad, they're saying Texas or Alabama. Well, I'm sure he's already committed to Texas. This performance didn't make him second guess his commitment in my mind. So everybody who was there, 23s, 24s, had to walk away from that football game thinking this program's headed in the right direction. And I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's about trajectory, right? It's about trajectory. And this coaching staff came out and had these players ready to play. You can hear it all spring. You can hear it in the fall. You can hear it, over the summer that they're coming together as a team. They're communicating well. They're playing hard for each other. But until you see it on the field like you did today, it's hard to kind of grasp it. We don't want to put the cart before the horse because we know what's happened year after year after year after year. I was telling a buddy of mine today, I was like, he's a tech guy, right? And we were talking probably 15 minutes, probably 20 minutes before it kicked off. And he says, this is going to be a telltale sign of where Texas is. And I said, it's also a telltale sign that's going to be the most talented team you play the entire season. Right. Yep. But Texas has always had this thing where they play up in games, and then all of a sudden they play down in games. What I need to see moving forward outside of this game is that they play at the same intensity level that they played with today. Regardless if there's 80,000 people in the stands against UTSA next week, if there's 105,000 people in the stands against UTSA next week, right? You've got to make sure that you're playing with this intensity level in every football game moving forward. And if they do that, no doubt, it would not surprise me if everybody changed their minds today that they say Texas is the team to beat in the Big 12. No doubt. Based on what they showed today, this is a Big 12 championship team. I would love to hear what Saban's comments are after this game. I know he's going to be fired up about those penalties. Excited to see what Sarkisian's going to talk about. But this game right here, man, I'm telling you, when you give your shot a chance to win in Bert Auburn, goodness gracious, Bert Auburn. I actually stepped away for a minute and didn't watch that kick. I didn't watch that kick. I think during our show, our thing that we did with our members today, which was really cool, by the way, those that were in our chat, we had the screen up today with the game on, and me and Jeremy would come in periodically, quite a bit actually, during the game to talk about what we need to do, how we need to stay ahead of change. We kind of just gave kind of an idea of the football game. And I think pretty good. I think they had one hot mic moment. It was me. Hopefully I didn't say anything too crazy.
No.
But it is what it is, man. You're going to get all of us. We haven't muted. We haven't muted for one during when we're not talking. And the reason is because I probably say some things I probably shouldn't say quite a bit, but today's game, man, it was just the intensity. My voice is gone. But definitely excited about this football team.
So in going into the football game, me and Clint were nervous. I told Clint I had butterflies and we're not playing. But when those butterflies kind of calmed down is when I text Scott Hudson, Cole Hudson's dad, and I said, hey, best wishes today. Let's get this W. And he texts back, let's go kick some ass today. So there's a ton of and I took that text, and what it told me was that this group is confident, right? That his son is a true freshman starter on the offensive line going up against Alabama's defensive line that has Dallas Turner and Will Anderson, and he's confident that his son's going to go out there and perform today along with his teammates. And so when I got that text from Scott, I was fired up, man. And it looked like the team came out ready to play. They weren't the ones that were rattled. Alabama got rattled. And Alabama had moments of indiscipline. Alabama looked like they didn't have, what is the number, 85 scholarship players, and we always quote it, 58 of those are freshmen or sophomores and 35 brand new. This team has come together. This team is confident. This team, and you can see it on the field. And obviously they're having those conversations in the locker room. They knew when everybody doubted them that they could come out and have a chance to win this football game today. And it excites me for the future. Again, you're taking an L in the win-loss column. You're going into UTSA 1-1, but I got a feeling that the way this team played to get today, they're going to get a whole lot of respect on the national scene. They're going to get a whole lot of respect. And somebody asked if they were going to be ranked. I would be surprised if this team is 1-1 playing UTSA wasn't in the top 15 in the country coming out next week. But I don't really worry about rankings. I worry about December 3rd. And my goals are what Steve Sarkisian's goals are, because that's what the team's goals are. And that's, again, there was much to be gained by this performance, win or loss. They're going to take a lot of great things out of this. a lot of confidence out of this. And as we transition to conference season, Joe Klatt said it towards the end of the game, and I know Gus Johnson echoed it. There's not a team in this conference, I believe, that if they play like they did today, can beat the Texas Longhorns, and that's burnt orange glasses on. And
Mark B here. Week 2 this year definitely better than week 2 last year. I can tell you that post game was difficult, and I told Jeremy, I was like, shit, we're not gonna have a lot of trolls in this damn in this show. Because Arkansas, man, they brought it last year after that loss. It's hard for me to see those Alabama guys that showed up a couple of times this week in our show that said they're gonna beat us 55-0 to show up in the interview. You're here. Welcome, comment, message on how your team looked today against our Longhorns, man. Because I don't think it was what you expected. I don't think it's exactly what the prognosticators expected. Hell, if you go back and listen to Pollock. He said we're going to get drugged across the field. I would like to know what his thoughts are at this point. Because nobody
there's a lot of
Texas, and I get it. I get why they don't respect Texas, right? Because Texas has been on the same roller coaster ride for the last decade plus, right? You don't know where they're going to show up. You don't know what it is. This whole we're back and all this other bullshit is why they do it, right? But at the same time, this is how you gain respect on the national level: is to take the number 1 team down to the last minute and, give yourself an opportunity to win. Give yourself an opportunity to win against these good football teams. Hell, Alabama's beat so many teams over the last 10 years, but there's very few teams that have actually put themselves in a position to actually win the football game like Texas did today.
I don't know if we acknowledge, because like I said, we're going 100 miles an hour because we're excited about our team's performance. Did we acknowledge the super chat from Wes?
We did not.
Okay, with a healthy Quinn, thank you, Wes, or Tex, not Wes, Tex, 2005. I might need to put my glasses back on that I just got yesterday in the mail. Yeah, I'm getting older. I got to wear readers now. With a healthy Quinn, we win easily. I believe he's meant to say hook 'em. Tex, thank you for your $5. Again, I believe that this offense was headed in the right direction. I'll never say there's a lot of circumstance, right? But I feel like you do. If 3 is in the game for 4 quarters minus half of the first quarter, we're in a good position. And again, I think Hudson Card came out and played really, really well. It's just like you lost one of his strengths and his mobility when he had that ankle injury. And Joe Klatt hit the nail on the head too. Like, that's where you get your arm strength from, is your lower half. It's not with your arm, it's with your lower half. And unfortunately, he couldn't put everything he needed to, because Xavier Worthy was wide open on that double move. But he just couldn't get it to the hash mark, couldn't get it to the sideline to hit him in stride, or he's probably dancing in the end zone. So thank you so much for that $5 super chat. We really appreciate it. Can I say one more thing? There's 107 people in here currently, 33 likes. Please hit that like button. Our team had a hell of a performance today. You guys should be in a great mood. I am. Again, it's an L, but at the same time, this team has showed you they have a ton of potential for the 2022 season and beyond. If they just take the lessons that they get from this game and continue in that right direction that we think they will. They got the right coaches here. They continue to churn this roster and got a lot of playmakers in a lot of positions. Just couldn't hold on to that 19-17 lead at the end of the game. But again, Alabama's a talented team. They're the number 1 team in the country. They have the greatest coach of all time. So there's nothing to hang your hat on, Texas fans. Appreciate you joining us. And think about joining that inner circle.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, like you said, the number of guys we've turned over this roster in the last year. To me, that's important, right? Because they're going out and getting the guys they know they know they need to win. And to look at all these freshmen and sophomores, and I can't, like I told Jeremy, I can't wait till the PFF numbers come out, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Goodness gracious. But you were talking about Hudson Card a while ago. Hudson Card looked like a different quarterback than he did last year. There were a couple of times, and again, he's going against the best pass rushing defense they're probably going to see over the next 3 years. But to me, he didn't look as shaky as what he did again in that Arkansas game, and that's something to move forward. Depending on what Quinn's injury is, Hudson Card can do enough as the quarterback at Texas to put Texas, especially if their defense shows up like they do each and every week, to put Texas in a place to win. Do I think he's more of a game manager than Quinn Ewers? Absolutely, but there's nothing wrong with being a game manager, right? If you're getting the ball to the right people at the right time. So Hudson Card actually showed me something today. I'm going to go look at his stats real quick. Like, you got a thought. I seen your head kind of shake real quick. I think you had a thought.
Yeah, because I only thought he last year Strap was holding the ball too long, taking sacks. He only did that one time. They got him one time where he probably could have got rid of the ball and took a sack. And then again, he didn't have his legs underneath him when he could have hit Worthy. But that's no fault of his own. Again, he didn't have his bottom half. I agree with you. If this defense could play like they did today, there's no reason why they can't, Hudson Card or Quinn. I think it's a shoulder or a collarbone injury to Quinn. Again, he was in a sling in the second half. I know you guys saw that on the sidelines. But I think they could definitely win with Hudson Card. Hopefully his ankle is probably an ankle sprain, and hopefully it's not a high ankle sprain, because those could take a while to recover and get your mobility back. A lot of swelling comes with that. But again, he got out of the pocket and ran for 15 yards when he had to. We'll get him in treatment, get him in ice baths, get him 10 units on his ankle, get him ready to play against UTSA, because I just don't think Quinn's coming back next week. We'll see what I'm sure Steve Sarkisian is going to talk about it, post game. If not, probably Monday he'll give an injury report on Quinn. But other than that, I thought Deshaun Jameson, and you saw a lot of Jameer Johnson in the second half. I think Jameson got injured too. I think he was limping at one point, I thought, coming off the field, and you saw Jameer Johnson out there for a lot in the second half. But other than those two, I don't think we took any injuries. I don't think we had any injuries on the offensive line. Casey Kane came out, but he went back in. So you came out of this, minus your quarterback, which is a big piece of your team. I think you came out of this game as healthy as you could have. So it's a collarbone clavicle. Again, they talked about it. I think Matt Leinart talked about it at halftime. Quarterbacks are taught to try to land on that opposite, from the throwing shoulder, and that left shoulder took a hit, and Dallas Turner was dirty on that play. We don't talk about officiating much, but there was missed pass interference calls on Alabama in the first half, one in the end zone that we know of, and then that play that ultimately took Quinn out. Hopefully it's not broken. I imagine it's a broken collarbone, which probably keep him out till December time frame, in my opinion, but we'll see.
Yeah, I got another super chat here from our guy Tex here, Tex 2005. How about our young O-line? They look pretty good. You got a true freshman that gave Will Anderson all he wanted the entire game. Obviously they're going to get some pass rush. They had to manufacture. How about that? They had to manufacture pass rush to get to the quarterbacks, because they weren't winning one-on-one versus our offensive line. They weren't. It's tremendous to see that. And you go back to Bijan's early years, right, as a true freshman, and it's hard to think that you're going to have multiple years with Bijan Robinson. You're going to have multiple years with this offensive line. Outside of Christian Jones, the guys that Christian Jones is probably the only one that's going to leave next year, right? But all four of those linemen more likely going to come back, and they're going to get that much better. But to do it against a defensive front like Alabama, me and you kept talking about it outside of our chat, man, but that offensive line was kudos to them, man. I just can't wait to, again, look at some of these PFF numbers to kind of see where they were actually at.
And you're getting some love from the Bayou State, and Nick Saban said it before the game that Texas would be in the top half of the SEC before the game started. That he respected Texas and knows that Sark's going to turn this program around. And I think this is one of those games that could catapult them into that. I think they're a top 15. If they perform like they did today, I think Texas is a top 15 team in the country, no doubt. But some love from the Bayou State, Texas will fit very well in the SEC. He's a believer now. Thank you for saying that. Again, we talked about moving to the SEC was all about trench play, and that's where we said we'd focus, watching the game today. And the offensive line and the defensive line for the University of Texas Longhorns played a hell of a game. And again, I don't think they're going to do anything but get better, because this is only somebody said a little bit earlier in the chat about their second year in Pete Kwiatkowski's system. They're starting to understand the system and play gap sound, which they did. There was one play they weren't gaps down, and it cost you an 81-yard touchdown, and that's a key play in this football game. But other than that, they were where they were supposed to be, and the open field tackling was unbelievable. On those wide receiver screens, the first man would do his job, the receiver for Alabama, by blocking the corner, and the safeties would be up the Alabama receivers' tails and making one-on-one open field tackles, bringing the man down to the ground for at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. So a lot of great things you're seeing. They're getting a better pass rush. Their tackling is better. And again, they played a good disciplined football game today. Alabama committed 15 penalties. Texas only committed 5. No turnovers, even though, like I said, you had a quarterback shuffle and probably had to change your game plan midway through the game. And they did all this, and Bijan didn't go off, right? So you're 2019 with a team that was in the national championship game. That's the runaway number one team in the country by these same prognosticators that had us losing by 20 to 25 points. And you played them toe to toe, and your best player didn't have the game that most folks thought he would.
130 total yards for Bijan, 21 carries, 57 yards rushing. And then, again, where he's dangerous at is not always in the run game, but 3 catches for 73 yards at 24.3 yards a catch, his longest being 42. So you're talking about he put up all-purpose yards, 130 yards today against Alabama. It was quiet, 130 yards minus that 46-yard pass that he caught out of the backfield when he was on, I think, their safety. But another one, man, we got another Alabama guy in here. Another Alabama guy just in that last comment. He was, much respect from Alabama. Great game. Threw up a hook 'em sign and a heart sign. We appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, AMH from the 704. Yeah, again, you're going to get a lot of respect nationally after this performance. Again, those same folks that thought you would get drugged or dismantled or beat down are going to have to eat their words. They all predict. None of them had it close that I saw. ESPN generally doesn't give a score prediction, but none of them had Texas. We didn't. I'm not going to front and say we had Texas. I had 38-28 Alabama, and I thought we'd play a 4-quarter game against them, which is absolutely what we did. I just thought they would score last. I thought it would be somewhere near 31-28. I was absolutely wrong. Our defense was not going to give up 31 points, and they would score a late touchdown and make it 38. That's where I came up with my 38-28. So I didn't have them drubbing us. I didn't have them rolling us. I thought we'd play good for 4 quarters and keep ourselves in the game, which is exactly what we did. But I didn't have our defense playing this well. Again, I said observations for week 1. Assumptions after week 2. Well, I assume that this Texas defense is going to be in probably that top 50 category that you said they had to be in order to be playing in Dallas on December 3rd.
Yeah, they're averaging 15 points a game right now.
Yeah.
20 points. They gave up 20 points to Alabama. 20 points. I had Texas losing again. I'm not going to sit here and act like I had Burnham's glasses on. We're not going to take on a defeatist attitude, but I had Texas losing 42-28 because you thought they were going to be able to put up a lot of points. Texas gave up 20 points, and out of those 20 points, 10 of them came in the first quarter on the first 2 drives. In the first 2 drives of the game, they gave up 10 points. For the remainder of that game, they went down that chart. I love that way that chart looks: 7 yards, 7 yards, 9 yards, -2 yards, 7 yards, 9 yards. And then somebody said earlier, well, they folded at the end. I don't absolutely think they folded at the end. I think Bryce Young is a Heisman Trophy quarterback for a reason. He's the best quarterback in college football. He has experience. He found his guys. They played the same coverage. They were still aggressive, which I love to see from Texas. They were still aggressive. Bringing Watts from the corner. We just missed that one tackle, went 19 yards. But if he would have sacked Bryce Young, and there's always the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, you put him back 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and now the field goal is a lot longer than it was if he got it out. But again, I don't think they folded. I think they ran the same defense. But I think Bryce Young, who he is, did what he needed to do to get Alabama into field goal position. But as far as absolutely not.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to pull this comment up and be diplomatic, right? Because I'm going to talk macro. Me and Clint talked about, and Steve Sarkisian talked about in his press conference, 11-on-11, put the ball down. but you have to respect the talent that Alabama has. You have to respect the coach that they have. You have to respect the fact that they're the number one team in the country. You have to respect the fact that they're probably going to battle Georgia for the SEC championship. So can't be proud of an L no matter how you spin it. There's no spin, man. It's 11 dudes against 11 dudes. Yeah, you lost the football game, but macro, this loss is going to be so beneficial to your current football team and their progression going forward and their confidence and the fan base's confidence in that football team and those 2023 recruits, 2024 recruits, 2025 recruits that were standing on that sideline. They were believing what Steve Sarkisian was selling without any results. Now you start putting results against the number one team in the country on your resume. I guess it was an L, but it's the most satisfying L. I think I've been a fan for 42 years, right? Since my first Texas TCU game that my dad took us to at Amon Carter, Stadium. And I don't think I've ever been as proud of a football team minus a national championship win and especially a loss. Like, because we went burnt orange glasses off. We were 5-7. You got to show us. Well, I think they showed you today. They went toe-to-toe and outplayed the number one team in the country for 3.5 quarters. And without a Heisman Trophy quarterback, they don't win this football game. You win this football game. Like Clint said, we're not into the what-ifs, the hypotheticals, but if Ryan Watts makes that tackle and you get them behind the sticks, there's a chance that we win this football game 19-17. But they've got a talented football team. They're not the bottom half of the Big 12. They're not a group of 5 school. They're the number one team in the country. So I will be satisfied with this loss, and I think it projects for your football team positively going forward. That as a competitor, and hell no, nobody wants to take a loss, but I think there's growth in this loss.
I can't say any better, brother. I really couldn't have said it any better than what you just did right now. That's a good, I would say, 1.5, 2 minutes of preaching moment there. I think this is absolutely. I think this is what's important. Hold on, real quick. Let me see if I can pull it up. This right here, to me, is what did it. This is the first time because Texas gets this country club. Thought it's a country club when they show up to these games. The stadium's not very loud. They're not into the football game. They're more of the pageantry, have a couple of cocktails and watch this football game, right? This by far had to have been the loudest I've ever heard that crowd. And again, that's what happens when you put yourself in a situation to play against the number one team for 4 quarters. Because I'm going to tell you, when they went down and got that 81-yard or 80-yard touchdown, right? Because Jason McClellan ran that 80-yard touchdown. I called Jeremy and I said I think I might have said it in our members live that we did during the game. And if you haven't caught that, you got to check that out. Honestly, I don't have a problem doing it maybe every week. I know that we decided we were going to just do it against Alabama and Oklahoma, but I think if I could do it against Alabama in that situation, I think I could probably do it the way that we do it in each every game. But I'll leave that up to Jeremy. For our members only. It's too much when you have like 200 people in there chatting and trying to keep up with it and so on and so forth. We may open up for a couple of games to do that. But they could have – adversity is what got Texas last year, right? And not being able to make adjustments out of the halftime. They could have folded after that 80-yard touchdown. They didn't fold. Texas kept playing with the same intensity after every situation. And I think if you would have looked at last year's team and the team before that and the team before that and the team before that, that's where we found our situation on the defense side of the ball. Is that as soon as it collapsed. Mm-hmm. And people stopped communicating. They put their head down. They did all this other stuff. There was none of that today at all. Like, there was none of that happened today. Defense couldn't score. Not a problem. The offense couldn't score. Defense is going to come back, and they're going to stop Alabama. Right? You wish you could have had a little bit more complimentary football today from the offensive side of the ball. But Alabama's defense is probably the best defense that Texas is going to play this entire year. Yeah. Your quarterbacks went 23 for 34, right? Hudson Card went 14 for 22 for 158 yards and 7.2 yards after he came in when Quinn Ewers got injured. Before Quinn Ewers got injured, 9 for 12. He had 134 yards in the first quarter at 11.2 yards per pass. This team, again, we're going to say this over and over again. If you can't take away something from this game as a Texas fan, I don't know what else to tell you, because this is, to me, like Jeremy said, this was the single best loss that Texas has had in damn near 25 years.
Yeah. And I'll give you two thoughts real quick. And that's the folding, right? When your starting quarterback comes out, the guy that everybody believes in, and he goes down in the first quarter, you have a reason to sink your head and mail it in. They didn't do that. Hudson Card came in, and before his ankle injury, made a lot of great plays. And after he was limited, he still moved the football down the field to let us take a lead in the fourth quarter with that Burn Auburn field goal. And then I hope the narrative is that Texas made Alabama sloppy. Again, Texas outplayed Alabama for 3.5 quarters. So I hope the narrative coming out of this football game is that Alabama committed 15 penalties for 100 yards. And that's the reason why Texas was able to stay close, which is absolutely inaccurate. The reason Will Anderson kept jumping off sides is because he couldn't get a jump on Christian Jones or Kelvin Banks. The reason why they were playing so undisciplined and grabbing face mask and holding on the perimeter was because our receivers were beating them and they were getting pissed off. So, again, Alabama came in here and Texas went toe-to-toe with them for 4 quarters of football. And, again, we have a very inexperienced football team. 58 out of 85 are freshmen or sophomores. They're in their second year of a system. These coaches aren't brand new to college football, but they're brand new to the state of Texas and brand new to this football team. Somebody said it during the football game. This defensive line who showed out today has played under three coordinators and 2 head coaches. So, again, I don't think that burn orange glasses on. The trajectory is up for this football team, and I don't want the narrative to be that Alabama played down to the level of Texas. Hell no. Texas played up to the level of Alabama and stopped their run minus an 81-yard run. Bryce Young couldn't find any receivers open downfield. Our guys were covering them. We were in the correct spots and doing what we needed to do to put ourselves in position to win this football game.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. And I talked about it, I'm not sure, at the beginning of the show, that you caused them to have those penalties. They didn't shoot themselves in the foot because you weren't causing them. Pass interference, you cause those things because you got a wide receiver that gets behind the secondary. You cause face mask because the guy is one step too slow than the guy that's getting the ball. Those penalties are caused by that, right? I do want to go back to something, though. This whole non-targeting in the end zone situation, right? If you go back and look at it, right? And I think I'm going to go back and look at it again because maybe I'm wrong or I just don't know the rule. But if I'm in the end zone and it's not a completion, but I'm in the end zone, but I don't get it outside the end zone, and I'm not outside the tackle box, how is it not a safety? And that's the only thing.
Should be grounded in safety. No, it should be grounded in safety. But I was just so happy they didn't call him for personal foul and targeting, which was complete garbage. Like I said, and the guys on TV got it absolutely right, Gus Johnson. And I think Gus Johnson really went after Joel Klatt. He's like, he didn't even make contact. Like, he literally whiffed, and you're calling him for target and personal foul. The guy was not down. So Overshown was in all of his right to make contact. And I think he hit his leg, make contact with Bryce Young in the end zone. I think you're absolutely right about the rule. We'd have to give it Tracy, and Tracy's already texted me about the referee's performance today. But Tracy Williams, that is, you guys know that he's an official and he's in our chat. But I think that is grounding, and I think that's a safety, and we get our 2 points. But again, I wanted that to be 4th down, us to get the football back, and them to be punting from their 1-yard line, essentially, is what my focus was. But I think that's correct.
Biggest play of the game.
Yeah.
4th and 1. 4th and 1. Your defense, Anthony Cook, showed up in the hole that he was supposed to show up and kept them from getting 4th and 1. As physical as they are, your defensive line showed up in the 4th quarter on a 4th and 1 and stopped them short of the chain so you could get the ball back to go down and kick a field goal. If I'm not mistaken, that field goal came right after that 4th and 1, right? On a short
Yeah.
field. Yeah. 4th and 1, man. 4th and 1. You know what went back in my head when that 4th and 1 happened? USC national championship game. Lindale White.
You know what?
That's the first game.
You know what?
Go ahead.
You know what went through my head, and that's because Gary Patterson's getting a lot of love. PK's getting a lot of love in the chat. We talked about it. We talked about Anthony's abilities to be around the line of scrimmage and to make plays just like that. If they're playing two deep safeties, and again it's 4th and a foot, so why would you have him that deep? But just his ability to get into the backfield and tackle. Like I said, out on the perimeter today, the Texas cornerbacks and safeties made tackles on plays in the past that Alabama would probably bust for 20, 25 yards. Because, again, the wide receiver's responsibility on a 2 wide receiver set, the wide receiver who's not catching the ball on the screen did their job. Like, they locked our cornerback up, but the guy whose responsibility it was to make the tackle on the pass receiver, they came up and made that stop every single time. The yards after catch that for Alabama was nil. Again, they busted one big run play, and after that, Texas was solid. And I know the guys on the in-game chat know that I beat up Jalen Ford during that instance about not being gap responsible. But immediately after that, and again, that was another moment that Texas could have hung their head, said, "Oh shit, same old song and dance, same story." But they didn't. They came back. They were resilient. Texas went down, scored, took the lead, and the defense just played their tails off for 4 quarters and went toe-to-toe again with the number 1 team in the country. And I realized, and I see exactly what the commentators on television saw, and that's and Alabama doesn't have that Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle receiver, but they're all 5 stars. And they're all, Caleb Burton or Jermaine Burton, the transfer from Georgia, is a good football player. Hell, Texas wanted him to come out of Calabasas, but our defense covered. Our defensive line got pressure when they needed to, and this defense just showed out for 4 quarters of football. It's just unfortunate we couldn't keep the Heisman Trophy winner from driving the ball down the field and getting that game-winning field goal.
So it sounds like, for what people are saying, it's a clavicle injury somewhere probably between a sprain and something else. Scott Sheraton, our dude, super chat, $10, always in here for our post games. He's a big contributor to Texas football talk as well, man. We love some Scott Sheraton. It sounds like it's a clavicle issue. It sounds like it's a shoulder sprain at this point. So we'll kind of see where it goes and how long it lingers for. But he's definitely your starting quarterback when he gets healthy. That's for damn sure. Because what he did in that first quarter against that Alabama team, you can see why Steve Sarkisian says he can do about everything that I need him to do in that offense. Because he was hitting that big damn, he was hitting those over the top plays quite a few times. Yep. So you can tell that him and Worthy were working on that, But they say your biggest improvements between your first game and your second game when it comes to that. And I said, when I went back and watched that Utah State game, yes, it was 55-0 or whatever it was, but you could see there was issues between Bryce Young and his wide receivers in that football game against Utah State. Like, their timing wasn't there. You've seen it again today. Once he gets pressure, either they're not figuring out the tree, or he gets pressured and they're not running the right route, or the timing is off altogether, especially across the middle, especially at the beginning of that game. Now, he was connected at the end, to obviously get him down there to score that touchdown. But I seen it in the Utah State game. And Utah State got pressure on them too, which you've seen Texas get today too. I'd like to see what our pressure rate was today, because that's one of the things we've been looking for. But damn, man, I'm giddy. It's crazy. I've never felt better about a loss in my 42 years of Texas Longhorn fandom. Again, I'm 45. We've been following Texas since I was 3, or been a fan as long as I can remember. And this, again, other than the national championship game, I've never walked out of a game feeling this good about the program. And again, we walked into the season burn orange glasses off, right? We said, got to show us. Like, we're not going to cheerlead for this team. We're not going to observations. We're going to call it like we see it. We're not going to, again, they got to show us. And that's absolutely what they did today. A lot of folks didn't see this coming. Again, I picked Texas to lose 38-28, and they performed. They absolutely performed and gave 100% effort. Effort can't be questioned. Resiliency can't be questioned.
You pulled that one up. I had one I wanted to pull up, but I got long-winded. So, and it was just a channel endorsement real quick. So let me do that real quick. Michael Sproul said it's good to be a member. Join up, y'all. It's the price of a Big Mac. Again, we did a full in-game chat with the members of our inner circle for 4 hours today. With the game on the screen. Again, we don't stream it because we don't want to get in trouble with YouTube, but it was available for them to watch along with us and for us to give comments and for them to chat along as the game went on. So again, there's a lot of good stuff coming out of Texas Football Talk. Please becoming a member of the inner circle your consideration. And then there's 132 folks in here right now. There's only 65 likes. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed to Texas Football Talk. We'd really appreciate it. But yeah, get those likes up.
Week 2 last week, I was ready to quit.
Oh, last year you were ready.
You did. Last week, week 2 last year. Yeah. At this point, hell, I want to do about 4 or 5 shows a day. After this, and again, it's trajectory of a program, man. It's just you have to be consistent. For the next 10 weeks, right? That's where you got to be. You got to be consistent for the next 2 weeks. You're 1-1, played Alabama today to a 1-point game, did everything you need to. To me, it's how you come out and play against UTSA. You should beat UTSA like they're UTSA. Bottom line. Then you get into Big 12 football. The most talented team you're going to play all year is the one you play today. So that should give you that should give these players an idea of how good they are. So to me, it's about being consistent. And I want to go back to that Hudson Card comment because I think, again, Hudson Card is a different quarterback than Quinn Ewers, right? We know that. Arm strength's different. The way he gets the ball out is different. But, again, if your defense is consistent like it was today, Texas can win a lot of football games with a game manager. And you can tell that Hudson Card today wasn't going to sit back and wait for somebody to come open. His first thought is, if I can't find somebody, which was different than last year, I'm going to run it and get us a first down that we need, right? And Hudson Card going through this juggernaut of Alabama, and from third quarter on, I promise you this: the game's going to slow down a lot more this year than it did last year because that's going to be the fastest team you play all year. There's just not athletes on the field in the Big 12 that mirror Alabama's talent. It's not. These guys are NFL football players that you played today. So I just think that Hudson Card, he can win you, your 9 games. Hell, he can win you 10 games. That's the way I look at it. If your defense is consistent and plays the same way they played today, and it looks like that they have prepared this defensive team, both Gary Patterson and Pete Kwiatkowski, for the next game, and the next game, and the next game, and the next game, and they know exactly what they want to do with these defensive players, who they want to play, and so on and so forth.
It's a loss, so I really don't want to go watch it a second time, but that's what we do, right? And you talked about getting the PFF grades tomorrow to analyze performance. I'm having a hard time thinking of, again, we didn't run the football as well as I would like to. I think it was 2.7 yards per carry. Again, that's not good enough, but again, Alabama's defense is pretty doggone good. But bad performances, I think every player is going to come out here with confidence, come out of this game with confidence. I think the back end's got to feel good about how they tackled and covered. I feel like the linebackers, other than one run fit, got to feel like that they produced. The defensive line goes without question. Like Bryce Young was not comfortable in the pocket, and it's because our defensive line was breathing down his neck. Whether it was Coburn, Sweat, Murphy, Ajomo, Ogofu, they were all making plays out there and pushing the pocket just like we asked them to do. And then when you go to the offensive side of the football, you talked about Quinn Ewers' performance before he got injured. Like he was comfortable. Like he was not rattled. He was not shaken. He was not under pressure. He was moving the football effectively. You go out to receivers, guys made plays in the receiving core. Casey Kane, that's the one time I lost my voice was when Casey Kane caught that football across the middle. But just I think in the offensive line against the Alabama defensive line, the juggernaut that we knew they were going to be, and I kind of feel like we undersold our offensive line on Thursday. Now seeing this performance, I want to go back and take a lot of the things I said on Thursday back. But again, I had to say, hey, it's just one game. It's an observation. But I feel like on both sides of the football, in the trenches, we are SEC ready now, and it's only going to get better with these young players.
Text 2005 with a $20 super chat. If Carter can't go next week, who do we go to from Guam? Hook 'em. Damn, I don't know what time it is in Guam. Hell, maybe tomorrow or yesterday. In Guam, not exactly sure. Yes, man, that's far.
It's out there.
He was stationed in Guam from 14 to 17. So I'm not sure if Text 2005 is still there. Let me tell you who you go to. You probably go between a mixture of Charles Wright, again, it's UTSA, Charles Wright and Malik Murphy. I think you both give them a shot because Malik Murphy's not probably going to get into 4 games this year. And that's how you burn your red shirt, right? But who I'm going to go to is Roschon Johnson in the Kansas State game. I'm going to give you a lot of Roschon Johnson, right? And Bijan Robinson, and tell this offensive line to go out there and maul UTSA's, front seven. That's what I'm going to do. But if obviously if Hudson Card can't go, it's probably going to be Charles Wright. Then you're going to probably see some Malik Murphy to get him some game experience, right? I would, but you're going to see a whole bunch of Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson. That's what I would do. And just run it down their throat.
I would play Malik. I would play Malik and Rojo. I'd do just like Walt's saying, put Malik in, or let's see Rojo at quarterback. Steve Sarkisian's offense, when he talked about why he picked Quinn Ewers, because he can make all the throws. Malik Murphy has hella arm talent. Malik Murphy probably gives you a chance to make plays outside the pocket. Charles Wright is third on the depth chart for a reason. Steve Sarkisian thinks that currently he's performing the best in practice. That's the only rationale I could come up with it. Because upside, Malik Murphy's the guy, right? If you want your offense to have the max potential, the same reason why he chose Quinn Ewers, to have the max potential to make explosive plays and to put the ball where it's supposed to be put. Again, I think the only reason why he's 4th on the depth chart currently and not the 3rd guy coming off the bench is because he's a true freshman. But again, you don't have to worry about burning his redshirt year if he plays any less than 4 games. So I think your most explosive package would be Malik Murphy and the Wildhorn package. But I think Hudson finished the game. I think Hudson will be good to go for UTSA.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. Malik is got the higher upside, definitely. And again, I'm not saying our opponent is UTSA. Those guys went, I think, undefeated last year, or lost 1 game, and they gave Houston all they wanted last week. So they're going to come to Texas and play. They got a hell of a coaching staff and a hell of a head coach there at UTSA and a talented quarterback. But I think coming off of this to Alabama, this should show the team exactly what they can do to each and every opponent every week. So again, if Hudson can't go and you have Bijan and you have Roschon Johnson in the back, and you got a hell of wide receivers that are going to be hard to cover one-on-one against any team. So we'll kind of see where it goes through this week, though.
Absolutely. And I'm going to pop one up real quick because I said this during the live chat. Because he said, I hate to be one of those fans that complain about the refs, but man, everyone I know, including the people that hate Texas, I got texts from my friends who are Wisconsin fans, Oklahoma fans, talking about the refs' performance again, especially on the pass interference calls. And I said it in the live chat, like, we've had this channel for right at 2 years, and I don't remember ever having a show where a post-game show for sure, where we talked about the referees. But their inability to see hands on shoulders, grabbing a face mask in coverage cost you potentially a chance to score a touchdown, I know, because it occurred in the end zone. And again, Alabama committed 15 penalties for 100 yards, but I think I said that going into the fourth quarter. There were no flags thrown on Alabama in the fourth quarter that I can remember, or the statistics show, but I had to go back and check that. But I know I told our audience in the live chat that, hey, Alabama's 15 for 100. At a certain point, I want to say very early in the fourth or the end of the third. And then after that, no other penalties. And again, we only committed 5 for 30. So we played a very disciplined game. I kind of asked for that. Like, let's not have any more than 5 penalties. Let's not turn the football over. That's exactly how the football team did today. But yeah, we're not a show that complains about refs either, man. But unfortunately, they were a factor. That and the safety call, I think, were and again, what led you to the non-safety call was the initial call of targeting and personal foul on DeMarvion. But
yeah, ask Jeremy. I called him after that. I was throwing a damn fit. I was like, "How the hell is that not?" And somebody said it tipped off of Overshown's helmet, so it couldn't be it couldn't go down as targeting. But to me, you're in the grasp, right, in the end zone. If that point, if you think it's targeting, and after the call, you've already decided he's in the grasp anyway, right? And a sack is a sack is a sack is a sack is a sack, regardless if he threw it away. Because if you're saying that he targeted and it was roughing after the fact, that means you called him down in the end zone. You've already made a determination that he was in the grasp and he was down, and then he tosses it out. So to me, they're saying it's a tip. To me, he's in the grasp, but to call a lot of quarterbacks these days, right, to keep him safe. To me, Keandre Sweat had that joker, 8 yards on the line in the damn end zone, and he threw it out. Good heads up play. If it's not good heads up play, Bryce Young to get it out of there, but I just don't see it happen. Want to talk about when you're done.
Hang on, my guy, quick, Casey Kane. So caught the ball across the middle on a crucial play on that drive where we kicked the field goal to take the lead. Drew what I felt was a pass interference call in the end zone, didn't get called. He was my third receiver coming out of camp when Isaiah Naylor got hurt. I think he's starting to perform. But my question, the reason why I pulled it up is we haven't seen Savion Red and we haven't seen Brennan Thompson yet against ULM or Alabama that I can remember. If anybody saw them on the football field during offensive snaps, please correct me. But at what point do you start seeing those guys who we heard so much about in the fall and in the summer, making plays against our defense, which we now recognize is pretty good, and against our secondary, which is playing really well? When do you think we see 11 and 17?
I think,
or are they full red shirt?
Maybe not. I don't think it was 17. Maybe 17 was out there for a play. I can't remember. It may have been it may be Milton 16 that I seen. Now that I think about it, but we'll see when the snap counts come out, because it's too hard to identify who's all playing at what particular point in a game like that, right? You're just trying to watch to see what happens to the actual play itself versus looking at everyone. Really quick, I want to bring up one comment here. Scott Sheraton. How did this game's performance affect the recruits that were there? Absolutely important. You had one job, and that was not to get your ass blown out by Alabama in front of all these 23, 24, and 25 recruits. You got Jalen Held that was there that is kind of teetering between Alabama and Texas. You got Malik Muhammad that's supposed to take an official visit, it sounds like, to Texas A&M sometime this year, but is also thinking about going to Alabama. To me, that's huge. That you can show the trajectory of your program. Like Jeremy said it before, you sold it to these guys that they were 5 and 7. But today, you keep them in the boat, right? Or you bring them into the boat, or you give them confidence to stay in the boat. But this is not the end of the season. The end of the season is in December. You played really good, outstanding. Your defense dominated Alabama's offense for damn near three and a half quarters, right? But to me, it's how you finish the season, right? We can go out and have this game, but Texas shouldn't have any letdown games for the rest of the season, knowing that this was the most talented group of players they're going to play all year. And they played them like this. So to me, yes, it's huge for those recruiting guys. And we'll see what happens when 247 puts out their comments, because they'll talk to a lot of these guys, what their thoughts were in the game. But to me, it's how you finish the season all the way up to signing day. So
those guys who are currently committed in the 2023 class aren't going anywhere based off this performance. They're going to be more fired up. A guy like Anthony Hill, who's committed to Texas A&M and sees this Texas defense and the way they performed today, you might be back in it for him. There might be 5 stars out there that are currently committed somewhere else that watch this performance today against the number 1 team and rethinking their decision to take a visit to Texas. I think this game did nothing but assist you in your recruiting efforts for the 23 class and the 24 class. I think it made those guys who are already committed solid, because Clinton said it right. You had one responsibility, and that's not get blown out on your home turf by the number 1 team. You went out there and you outplayed them for 3.5 quarters. Their Heisman Trophy winner had to put on a hell of a performance in the last 5 minutes of that football game to beat you. I don't think you hurt yourself at all. I think it benefits you both short-term and long-term as far as the recruiting cycle. And before you throw up another comment, I want to address something real quick. He said, can we take a timeout and appreciate our loud allowed our fan base. That was absolutely a factor. Again, we said the 103. We've said it before, Jay. You must be late to the show. It was one of the first 2 or 3 things we talked about at the beginning. Was they were a factor, and Texas allowed them to remain a factor because they played the ball game that they played and kept this thing competitive for all 4 quarters. But no, Clint said it's probably the loudest crowd he's ever heard at DKR. I would agree with that assessment. Probably going all the way back to probably Colts time was probably any time we've had a sellout that was that wild, that crazy, that showed up that early, and we're in the football game for all 4 quarters, and we're definitely a factor. They contributed to Alabama getting 15 penalties, I guarantee you. And those folks that showed up and had tickets, I really appreciate your performance because Lord knows that team fed off of it for 60 minutes of football.
So next time I want to – no, yeah, I'm looking up something because I wanted to see if I can find some stats where it talked about pressure or sacks because off the top of my head right now, I don't know. What grade would you give Banks and Jones as a tandem? I'm going to say this, and this is just game-wise. You didn't score a whole bunch of points, and they had to go against the best 3 pass rushers they're going to see all season. So just going off of what I've seen in the game for 60 minutes, it's not just about Jones. I seen Jones. What I did like about Jones is that every time that somebody jumped on a player, here comes Jones, unlike he did last year, shoving these guys like 3 times today. And we didn't see that last year. We're like, why the hell didn't Jones go over there and pick up, I don't remember if it was Casey Thompson or Hudson Card off the ground and like shove this defensive guy that has hammered his quarterback. He decided he was going to get aggressive this year because 3 different times he did that to Alabama players today. Like, get the hell off my guys, man. I'm going to give the defense, right? I'm going to give the offensive line right now. I'm going to give them an A. I don't know what they graded out as. But to have to create, to make Alabama create pressure versus allowing those front forward to get pressure means you got to bring an extra guy. And if I would have looked at it today, if I would have looked at it this weekend, I don't think Alabama would have had to bring an extra guy because of the pure talent they have on that defensive line. I'm going to give them an A. I don't know what their grades are going to read like tomorrow, but Kelvin Banks, your left tackle for the next 3 years, did everything he needed to do to Will Anderson. Everything he needed to do to him. And I know that guy flipped sides, so Jones had him at some particular point too. And again, Jeremy's talking about, I don't know if I want to go back and watch the game after a loss. This is the only game. Hell, you only got to watch the last 3 minutes. You don't have to watch the last 3 minutes. You can watch the first 57 minutes and feel good and feel really good.
Right.
And then turn it off in the last 3 minutes because that's what I want to do. I want to go back and watch the first 57 minutes to actually watch, tune in to the offensive defensive line to see what they did.
Yeah, just one thought real quick. And I appreciate an Alabama fan, Charles Cummins, coming in here saying hats off to you guys. Sorry about Quinn. I got to admit, you guys gave us hell. Much approved all around, 100%. You guys are headed to the playoffs soon. Again, that's what Texas deserves coming out of this football game is respect on the national scene. And that means something coming from an Alabama fan who understands what it means to be in the playoff because they're always there. So thank you for dipping in, Charles. We really appreciate that. And then there was one more. Jabo, $4.99 super chat. Of course, it'd been better if we won, but based off the performance, we could play with anyone. Again, that's what I'm saying. Like, if this group takes this performance, and it can only be positive in my mind. Again, Clint said the grades are going to come out, and we'll check them out tomorrow. But based upon this performance, all they can have is confidence heading into UTSA in the conference season. And if this defense shows up and plays like it did today, there's not a team in the Big 12 that I would favor over them once we start conference play. And I think the crew from Fox said it, and I haven't had a chance to watch ESPN or any of the other channels since the game. But I got a feeling that a lot of folks are going to be eating crow and shooting a lot of respect Texas way and putting them in that top 2 or 3 teams that can be playing on December 3rd in Dallas for a Big 12 championship. So thank you, J-Bo, for the $4.99 super chat.
So Texas finally put up the numbers after the game. So I kind of want to go through them here real quick. Sacks. So Alabama had 3 sacks. 3 sacks for a total of 28 I think 28 yards. Texas had 2 sacks for 15 yards. It's good to see them
Yeah.
still getting to the quarterback against the competition they went to today. Third down conversion for both teams. Again, this was a defensive game today. Alabama went 5 for 15. Texas went 3 for 12. Would have loved to see Texas. They had 4 out of 5 red zone scores, but those red zone scores were more field goals than touchdowns. Alabama went 2 for 2 in the red zone. They only were in the red zone twice against your defense today, which is phenomenal as well.
I guess that's the one bugaboo. Hang on real quick. I guess that's the one bugaboo that I take out of this game is that red zone scoring. Getting down the red zone inside the 10-yard line and not coming away but with one touchdown hurt you in the end, I think. But yeah, that'd be the one thing I think we need to fix moving forward is our red zone efficiency. But other than that, I think, like I said, every other facet of the football game, you outplayed them. You had 25 first downs to their 16. Of course, we talked about the penalty problems they had. We didn't. It's just rushing offense. Bijan for the football team, 2.4 yards per carry. It's not good enough. And then your red zone efficiency needs to get better.
Couple of things here, man. So Texas had 25 first downs to Bama's 16. 5 of those came by the rush. 12 of them came by the pass. 8 penalties. Yep. 8 first downs by penalties today. 8 penalties. Again, face mask, pass interference, could win or win-on-one battles. 1 step behind. Go ahead, Jeremy. 1 step behind. Couple of other keynotes here. When you're looking at it, total offense today. Bama ran 63 plays, averaged 5.9 yards per play to Texas's 67 plays, 371 total yards at 5.5 yards per play. Obviously, the biggest number I talked about 𝗟𝗓𝗏 doing what he needed to do today as a punter. Got one inside the 1-yard line and then kicked another one 61 yards to really flip the field, which was absolutely important to see. The kicking team show up where they really didn't have a really good game last week, the punters nor the field goal kicker with the bobble snap. I think he went 4 for 5 today with a long of 49, I think is what it was to give you the lead in the fourth quarter. And then 𝗟𝗓𝗏 averaged 46.4 yards per punt. One of them a fair catch, 2 of them 50+ yards, 2 of them 50+ yards, and then 1 inside the 2-yard line to flip the field again. So seeing him do that today was outstanding. Kicker had 4 touchbacks. That's what you want from a kicker, is to kick it out of the end zone and cause these guys not to have an opportunity to return. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, just thought the bugaboo on special teams was the snapping of the football. 𝗟𝗓𝗏 had to pick one off the ground early in the game to get it away, and then the one miss by Auburn was on a low snap that Hudson Card had to pick up off the ground and try to respin it so he could get the ball through the upright. So we saw it last week. It was a hold bugaboo, and we said Isaac Pearson might not need to have that job of holding the football, and he didn't today. Hudson Card held the football on kicks, and then you saw they completely replaced him on punt. 𝗟𝗓𝗏 came in and took over the punt duties for Pearson this week, and he did a hell of a job. I think his first one, like you said, was for 61, and then he dropped one inside the 2-yard line, which allowed you to flip the field when Alabama was really controlling field position early in the football game. So, no, great job by him. You just got to fix those snapping issues. Both, like I said, there was one bad punt snap and one bad kick snap that cost your team a little bit.
Yeah, and remember, PK said he's holding teams to 20 or under. Give PK some love, man. He's back against the wall starting the season. Again, Pete Kwiatkowski is a hell of a defensive coordinator, right? And everybody's kind of going in on him, right, at the beginning of the season because of the disastrous season we had last year. But it's all about getting your guys and allowing these coaches to stay in the system. The thing about Pete Kwiatkowski, he's never taken a head coaching job, but Pete Kwiatkowski's not going to take a head coaching job. He's one of these guys that probably stick around with Sarkisian if you give him time for the next 10 to 15 years, right? Which is important because you're getting your kind of recruits in, right? Because they know exactly what kind of player they're looking for. But as it sits today, I was actually thinking, okay, we give, Alabama 40+ points. You gave 10 points to, ULM last week. It's crazy that you gave half the points to ULM that you gave to Alabama this week. That's absolutely crazy to me. 30 points total. You're currently sitting right now at 15-point average, and you played the number one team in the country. A 15-point average. So,
Yeah.
Again, I think I said 26 points. And again, it depends on who your quarterback is, because I think the obviously Quinn Ewers is going to be able to give you more points than what Hudson Card will be able to give you probably through a season. But to me, if Texas keeps their opponents under 26 points, their points per game, you have a chance to win 10 games this year.
And I agree with everybody's assessment. I mean, it's just – I just don't like hypotheticals, and it goes back to Colt McCoy against Alabama national championship game. If Colt doesn't get injured, Texas wins the national championship. I truly believe that. I believe the same thing. If Quinn Ewers, again, he was moving that football effectively. He was confident in the pocket. He gives you all the throws in the route tree, and just the offense is able to execute at a more explosive level with Quinn Ewers on the football field. And you lost him midway through the first quarter. And Texas didn't get down. They kept fighting. They kept battling. They kept, working to beat Alabama with Hudson Card on the football field. But I think the game plan changes when you lose Quinn. And I agree with your assessment. I think if QE plays the whole game, Texas wins this football game. But they had a hell of a shot to win it without him. They had a 19-17 lead with less than a minute to go in the ball game. Just couldn't keep Bryce Young, the defending Heisman Trophy winner, out of field goal range, and Riker came in and kicked it, and that was it. But even without your starting quarterback, the guy that makes this offense as explosive as it possibly can be, he still had a great game. So, yeah, I agree with you guys that are in the comments saying if Quinn plays the whole game, Texas wins, without a doubt, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Josh is in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've said it all show, Josh, that we were going to watch the lines of scrimmage on both sides of the football because we felt like our skill position guys could play with their skill position guys, which I think our skill position guys definitely outplayed them. Our receivers got open, their receivers didn't. Our guys covered, they didn't. And our offensive line and defensive line, especially the offensive line, held Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, and Chris Braswell, and the rest of that juggernaut of a defensive line for Alabama away from our two quarterbacks. Again, Dallas Turner with the late shot on Quinn Ewers puts him out of the ball game. But on the defensive side, consistently putting pressure on Bryce Young all game long. And it took a Heisman Trophy performance to beat Texas today.
Yeah. Just kind of looking at some of these scores right now. I want to kind of go through some scores. Appalachian State at College Station today, 7-7 with 2:26 left in the second quarter. Notre Dame is up 3 points in the fourth quarter against Marshall. Pitt is being beaten number 24 Tennessee 17-14. Wisconsin is up 7-7 in the second. With 1 minute to go in the second quarter against Washington State. Clemson is up 28-9 against Furman at halftime. And Georgia's up against Stanford right now, 20-0. Just want to kind of give some game updates here. But I would love to see Alabama or Texas A&M take a loss today against Appalachian State, who is a hell of a football team from right there. And I think North Carolina, but it's 7-7 with 2 minutes left to go at halftime, and Appalachian State has the ball.
Yeah, not sure about the Quinn Ewers. Again, we hopped on 5 minutes at the post game. We've been talking to you guys, so we haven't really seen or heard anything on the injury front. We've heard strained shoulder. We've heard sprained clavicle, and then we got broken clavicle here. And then someone's asking if he's gone for a week or gone for the season. If it's truly a broken clavicle, that's 6 to 8 weeks. So you have UTSA and probably all the way to Oklahoma with Hudson Card, or if Hudson Card's unable to go, which I think his ankle will be fine for next week. But if it's truly a broken clavicle, I think it's 6 to 8 weeks because that thing's hard to set and come back together. From what I've heard and in my experience, if it's a sprain, then ice it and treat it, and there's a chance he could be back he might be back after the UTSA. I wouldn't risk it against UTSA. I'd roll Card out there at home and see what happens. But if it is broken, then it's 6 to 8 weeks. If it's just a sprain, then he'll probably be fine in a week or two.
Yeah.
So nobody really knows. Waiting on MRI results.
Talk about wide receivers. I didn't see much out of Milton or Hall. I don't think Hall was going to play. I think he's suspended. I think he's active on the roster, but I don't think they're going to let him. I don't think Steve Sarkisian is going to let him play. Maybe see him at UTSA. You may see him at the beginning of the Big 12 schedule. Kind of see there. Was looking for a deep ball with Brennan Thompson. Again, you're going to go in this game playing your most experienced guys, and the wide receivers showed up. Quinn Ewers threw for 134 yards in the first quarter. I think Jordan Whittington had 5 receptions within the first couple of minutes of the football game. Xavier Worthy caught one deep and took a face mask at the same time as he was catching it. So I think you're just going to play your experienced wide receivers today. I think when Quinn Ewers went out, Hudson Card was probably given a different game plan because he just doesn't have the arm talent as Quinn Ewers. I think they were going to try to get some short, quick passes, try to find some stuff over the middle, try to run the ball a little bit more based on what the Hudson Card can do. But I think it was just about them playing, when you go back and look at the snaps, you're going to play your most experienced, most talented right now wide receivers against Alabama. I don't think it has to do anything with the rotation. And
like you said, Kane played very well. Whittington played very well. Worthy was explosive. Your top 3 are really, really good. And then you talk about the guy that's out for the season with an ACL tear, and that's Isaiah Nayor. This receiving core, again, you're going to lose Whittington next year, but Kane's coming back, Worthy's coming back, Nayor's coming back, and then the 3 guys you just talked about, Brennan Thompson, Savion Red. This receiving core is going to look good for years to come, just like you talked about the offensive line. But, yeah, I was surprised. That's why I asked a little bit earlier in the show if anybody saw 17 and 11 because I don't remember seeing Brennan Thompson or Savion Red. I do remember seeing Tariq Milton out on the field, but I don't think he was targeted when he was out there. But your 3 receivers plus JT, Jatavian Sanders. And I don't know, JT definitely didn't have as many catches as he did in last game, but I was looking to see if he had any. I think he had a couple of receptions, but not the impact that he had last week for University of Louisiana. It was 3. It was 3 catches for 4 yards. So utilized him underneath, and the long was 8. So he had a couple of catches there that lost yardage. So JT didn't have the impact this week that he had last week, but you get him more involved, and I think that's probably the loss of Ewers really affected that because him and JT Sanders had a lot of chemistry. But the one thing I didn't see enough of was Robinson on 10 to 0. He got him at the goal line, but McKinstry Kool-Aid made a hell of a play there because he had 10 beat to the corner of the end zone, but the cornerback came up and made a stop on Bijan right there. That's probably 6. That's definitely 6 points. But I didn't see that enough. We talked about 10's inability to cover in space. I'd like to see Bijan matched up with him a little more, similar to how Gibbs got caught up with Ovi late in the game, covering him and just beat him down the seam. I think that's something that looking back, Steve Sarkisian would probably like to do more, starting with the University of Texas, San Antonio next week.
I want to say something real quick. So we have 4,199 subscribers. So if there's somebody out there that's not commenting and they're not a subscriber, because everybody has to be a subscriber to comment, right? Is that right, Jeremy? So
that's
if there's
correct.
Somebody out there that's not a subscriber, you're not commenting, hit that subscriber button, get us over 4,200 for this. 4,200, our goal was at 6,000 before Oklahoma, and it may happen. But 5,000 would definitely be nice, and that would put us 800 from 5,000 if you get us to that 4,200 mark, which we greatly appreciate. We actually have an Ohio State fan in here today, too. I'm not sure if you've seen those messages. I'm an Ohio State fan, know nothing about Texas football, but I know how good Quinn was. He's so much better than Stroud. I don't know if I'd go there yet. Just haven't seen enough football from Quinn Ewers yet. I know Ohio State University made a mistake doubling down on C.J. Stroud and not Quinn. Quinn's a talented guy. C.J. Stroud is proven at this point in the college football game. Got you to a college football playoff, so I wouldn't go that far as a Texas fan. I probably need to see a little bit more from Quinn Ewers, but absolutely, he was a 1,000 rating for a reason. And you've seen it today in that first quarter because it looked like that it didn't matter if it was Alabama or ULM or UTSA or whoever it was. He was going to go out there and throw dimes, and that's exactly what he did, going 9 for 12 in that first quarter. He also said he bet his neighbor $5,000. Bet my neighbor $5,000. Texas would have a better regular season record than Texas A&M. Laugh out loud. Hopefully Quinn comes back. If our defense plays the way it did today, and Quinn's out for a couple of weeks, give yourself a game manager, and we'll kind of go from there. But we appreciate you. Subscribe to our channel, Tom Litt. Hang in there with us, man. If you want to learn about Texas football, tune into the show. We'll give you everything you need to know about Texas Longhorn football.
You asked for one and you got four. So you asked for one subscriber, okay. You got four because you're at 4203. But I had a thought. Folks asking about the turf. Again, we saw Bijan slipping and sliding last week against ULM when Quinn was trying to dump the ball down to him, and then folks are saying they saw a lot of, our players losing their footing today. Hopefully it's not a turf issue. It's a shoe issue, and we can get that fixed by just, fixing our stud sides on our cleats. But just fired up is this one, I guess. Regardless of the loss, I'm very satisfied with what I've seen today. Aside from our quarterbacks getting roughed up, Ewers would have won this game for us. Again, I wholeheartedly agree with you that if Quinn plays all 4 quarters. And then going back to the Ohio State guy, Quinn Ewers was never in a position to take that job from C.J. Stroud. Again, he got there in August. The season started in September. There was no way he was going to be able to learn the offense, execute the offense in any kind of manner that was going to make Ryan Day play him game 1, ultimately to start Ohio State season last year, and they keep him as the starter. And C.J. Stroud played phenomenal for Ohio State. Again, he had a hell of a receiving core to work with Wilson, Olave, and Smith-Njigba, but he made the plays he had to do to allow Ohio State to be one of the top scoring offense, if not the top scoring offense in college football last year. So we love who we got, and upset that we lost him in the first quarter of this football game, because I believe that if he plays all 4 quarters, Texas wins this football game. Again, they were in it till 2 minutes left, lost on a last-second field goal by Gabe Reichert and to the number 1 team in the country. And I think the sky's the limit for this football team. Burn orange glasses on, especially if this defense plays the capacity they played again today.
Tom Litt, you guys are awesome. Thanks, absolutely, man. Appreciate you joining the show. All right, well, I'm going to go watch some more college football, man, because that's what we do on Saturdays, probably until about midnight tonight. I'm super excited. We'll probably do a scatter shoot show tomorrow. Once I get the PFF numbers, we can kind of put those together to kind of see how the offense defense looked. But hell of a game today, man. Those boys went out and played their ass off today against a very talented football team in Alabama. Like you said, rankings don't matter, but rankings will matter this week, because there's no way they can't keep Texas out of the top 25. So, and like you said, it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't wind up in the top 15 this year or this week. You could see Texas go from unranked in the AP poll to really the top 15. I know they're ranked in the coaches poll, which they're going to zoom up in that one as well. But again, it's about consistency. Got to turn this one off tomorrow, or really Monday. And work on UTSA, man. Get this one out of your mind. Move on to UTSA and get prepared for the Big 12 run we're about to make. Yeah.
Please hit that like button before you take off. Again, for folks that are commuting from the game, who didn't get an opportunity to see this thing live, would love for them for this thing to be up on the algorithm so they could check it out when they get home or in the car. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you have not to Texas Football Talk. We'd love to have you as part of our family. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. Go watch some ball.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate y'all listening. As always, you can find us on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, on Instagram at Texas Football Talk, and on Twitter at TX Football Talk. We appreciate you listening as always, and have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll see you soon. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.